Imagine waking up to a world where every government bond suddenly freezes. Banks stop lending overnight, and ATMs flash red warning screens. Stock markets never open, and no one knows what happens next. But this crisis didn't appear out of nowhere. It's been building for 50 years. For decades, the world borrowed more money than it ever planned to repay. Leaders kept pushing the problem forward because the alternative felt impossible. And now we're left with one terrifying question. What happens when the world finally runs out of lenders? Every generation believes it's living through unusual times. But today's financial era is truly unlike anything before it. Global debt is now bigger than at any other point in modern history. Bigger than World War II, bigger than 2008, and bigger than the entire global economy combined. If you stacked all the $100 bills representing global debt, the tower would brush the edge of space. That's how massive the debt pile has grown. And yet, we arrived here not through chaos, but through small, normal policy decisions repeated again and again. These decisions felt harmless in the moment. Borrow a little here, add some stimulus there, plug a short-term gap with long-term debt. But year after year, those tiny choices stacked into something enormous. A financial time bomb we now rely on just to keep everything running. So how does this debt bomb actually work? Think of the global economy as a machine powered by promises. Governments issue IOUs called bonds, and investors treat them as safe and reliable. Everyone behaves as if this cycle can continue forever. Each time the economy slows, leaders push the same button. Borrow more becomes the universal solution. Instead of fixing leaks, they pour more water into the ship. It stabilizes things for a moment, but weakens the structure underneath. Debt grows because interest keeps stacking on top, compounds quietly, mechanically, in the background, like a shadow that lengthens every single year. And the system becomes addicted to adding new debt just to pay off old debt. Banks rely on government bonds as their safest assets. Pension funds need them to pay retirees. Countries refinance old obligations with new borrowing. And no one wants to imagine what happens if this cycle stops. But there's a turning point almost no one wants to talk about. A moment when investors start losing confidence. Not instantly, but slowly, like sand slipping through fingers. That's the first sign the debt bomb is waking up. Interest rates begin rising, making old debt more expensive to roll over. Bond auctions fail as fewer buyers show up. Currencies wobble as trust weakens. Governments scramble with budget cuts, tax hikes, or emergency money printing. We've seen early warnings before. Greece in 2010 when spending collapsed. The UK bond panic in 2022 when markets rejected government plans. Japan's currency shocks and America's repeated debt ceiling standoffs. Each event sent the same message. The world's credit supply is not infinite. Once trust fades, borrowing becomes dangerous, and even the strongest economies can feel the pressure. So what happens when the debt bomb finally becomes unavoidable? Governments slash essential services because budgets collapse. Inflation rises sharply as countries print money to survive. And banks face insolvency when government bonds lose value. Nations begin competing, not for growth, but for trust. The most credible borrowers survive. The others struggle. Inequality widens because inflation punishes workers while rewarding asset holders. And the global financial system becomes a game of musical chairs with too few seats. Currencies turn into geopolitical weapons. Debt becomes a tool for influence and control. Alliances shift as countries seek stable lenders. And the world enters a new era defined by financial power, not military might. Here's the uncomfortable truth. No leader wants to defuse the debt bomb because borrowing is the easiest choice. Each generation hopes the final explosion happens after they're gone. And so the cycle continues, decade after decade. Debt isn't just numbers on a spreadsheet. It's a claim on the future. And eventually, the future demands payment. The only question is who pays and when. So what do you think? Will the world finally confront its debt problem, or will we keep pretending everything is fine until the clock hits zero? Drop your thoughts in the comments below.